Hello, welcome back. This short video is a quick orientation to some key pieces that we'll be covering in class. This is just to get you started thinking. So, it sounds like you want to do qualitative research, or at least are interested enough to enroll in a class that some consider the softer side of science. We'll come back to this notion of a soft science later in class, but to begin, let's consider this. The notion of some science as hard science versus other science as soft science is merely just a construct that we've created, meaning that we've created these categories to validate some research over others. By the end of this course, you'll see how the rigor and quality of qualitative research is just as high as quantitative research, although that rigor and that quality are measured differently. Now, different doesn't mean inferior, as might be suggested with the hard science versus soft science. Different means exactly that, different. We measure the rigor and we measure the quality of quantitative research differently than we measure the rigor and the quality of qualitative research. Now, let's talk a little bit about what people think qualitative research is. First, oftentimes people think that qualitative research focuses on words versus numbers. This is a very common misconception. If qualitative research solely focused on words, we wouldn't be interested in all the things that people do in their actions, nor would we be interested in how people say the words that they say, nor would we be interested in the notion of silence. Silence speaks volumes. So qualitative research is much more than just simply looking at words. Some people think that qualitative research is easier than quantitative research. By the end of this course, I think you'll have a different perception. People often think that qualitative research is less rigorous, and again, by the end of the course, you'll see how you structure and systematically analyze qualitative research with rigor and validity. Oftentimes people think that qualitative research is not objective. What you'll be doing in some of the next modules is actually exploring exactly what objectivity means. And like I mentioned before, in the term of hard science versus soft science, objectivity is another construct that we've created. Now, there are certain skills that are needed by qualitative investigators, and these are some of the skills that you'll be practicing and learning about in this course. First is question asking. There is a need to have an inquiring mind. Your task in field work is to inquire into why events have happened or are happening. This is something that you ask yourself and others. This is mentally and emotionally exhausting. Qualitative research requires excellent listening skills. This includes all observations and sensing with the senses and not just the ears. Listening involves taking in a lot of new information without bias, noting exactly the words that are said, capturing the mood and affective components in the interaction, and appreciating the context of the experience. First and foremost, this requires an open mind and a very good memory. Remember that taping is not a panacea. Lots get missed if you just require and you just rely on your taping procedures. Another important skill is adaptiveness and the skill of flexibility. Studies rarely end up exactly as they planned. You must be willing to change or modify procedures or your plans if something unanticipated happens. The full implications of changes have to be taken into account. You may need to change the design. There's always a balance between adaptiveness and rigor. Qualitative researchers need a solid grasp of the issues at hand. All research requires the investigator to interpret the information during the study, not simply just record it. Therefore, you must have a very firm grasp on the issues at hand, the theoretical issues, the policy, all the context. If not, you'll miss the clues, you'll miss the contradictions, and you'll require much further evidence to be drawn. And finally, a lack of bias. All these previous skills that were mentioned are negated if they're used to substantiate a preconceived position. Investigators must be open to contrary findings, and in fact, you should look for them. During the data collection, preliminary findings should be submitted to critical colleagues who are asked to offer alternative explanations and suggestions for data collection. These are all essential skills that a qualitative researcher must have. As you move into learning more about qualitative research, you have to understand both the history of the method that you're using. It's important for students to understand the theoretical implications, along with the methodological pieces that they're going to be using. There are three interconnected activities that define the qualitative research process. You may hear them being called different names or different terms, but in general they are theory, method, and analysis. Or we'll talk about ontology, epistemology, and methodology. But all of these, it's important to keep in mind, are situated within the personal biography of the researcher. And this actually applies to both quantitative and qualitative research. More of this will be discussed in the Denson and Lincoln readings, as well as the theoretical overview video. So hang on to these questions. We'll be digging into theory, method, and analysis as we move forward. Thanks so much. Let's keep going.